Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. It is Monday. As I attach my lapel mic here, and it feels every bit of a Monday in terms of just being tired and a little groggy. Oh, but not too bad overall. Had a lot of just kind of work to do today that didn't bleed over really, so got a lot done, and it was just an average day, more or less. Although it looks like it's going to storm pretty good tonight. Oh, right now there's a bunch of clouds on both horizons. Well, both east and west, because we usually get storms coming from the west heading east, but occasionally we get some from the east heading west. Usually it's southwest to northeast. That's just the way the topography kind of directs the storms. But yeah, today I was looking at the radar and it's just kind of all over the place. So I don't know if we'll actually get anything, but it sure does smell like rain. Oh, there's this tree hanging over the side of the road right here at the corner I turn on. And every single time I've driven by in the past week, I've hit it. Like, because it hangs over just enough to catch the antenna on my truck. The antenna, and then kind of scrape the roof a little bit. And I keep forgetting to watch out for it because it's like doesn't look like it'll be hanging that low, but then it just gets a little bit too close. But this past weekend I did a lot of work actually on I cleaned up the house quite a bit. We took down, so we had this like big playpen, I guess is what you would call it, for our daughter. And it's like this, it was a 6 foot by 4 foot, like little thing. It's about 2 foot tall, and it's like a tent with like a mesh kind of fabric, like that kind of really tent material that's like waterproof and a bit stretchy, and it had aluminum rods holding it in shape, and it like just made this little area where we had a workout mat that was about an inch thick of foam underneath it, so that when she was learning how to walk, if we put her in there, she could kind of hold on to the side a little bit for help, but then also she could just run around in there all she wanted, and as long as we only put soft toys in there, she wouldn't hurt herself falling down. So it was really useful for that, because then we could let her learn a little quicker and not have to hold her hand the entire time. But also, when she was about like 1 to 1.5, we would just kind of let her play around in there when one of us needed, or when only one of us could be home. And so like when my wife was cooking, she could just set that up, and then we wouldn't have to worry about her climbing on the couch or climbing on the fireplace and knocking her head on the bricks or anything like that. And so it was nice to just have that kind of safe space for her. But then, of course, she kind of outgrew that. So there's a door on it. So we unzipped the door and just kind of used it as her little play area in the living room. And pretty much just put all of her toys in there so that it was a little more of a contained mess situation. But we just left it out because we were so used to having it. But on Saturday, I finally broke it down and took it all apart and put it up. And there is so much more room in our so much more room in our living room now. Like, I did not notice how much space was being used up, because like 6 foot by 4 foot, that doesn't sound too big. It's like, yeah, it's just 24 square foot, but it's a little bigger. I'm trying to remember. I guess, yeah, it was only 6 foot by 4 foot, but it took up a lot of space, uh, considering what it was. But then also, but we had it like blocking the fireplace, and also we're a little more worried just because we are still first time parents, and I mean, we're about to be second time parents, but it's still where we are very cautious with our daughter and don't love letting her run around near just like a brick ledge at the fireplace. And then our fireplace doesn't have a cover on it yet because for some reason they never installed one when they built it, or they never installed one afterwards. So it's just a open fireplace, which wouldn't be bad, but we have young children, or a young child, about to be young children, who are going to be crawling around and playing around there. And so having an open fireplace with a bunch of just ash and dirt in it is kind of like, let's try and keep them away from that. But our daughter's about to be 2 now, so she's old enough to know better. And she's old enough when we tell her no, she can listen. Chooses not to sometimes, but we know she understands. But yeah, her birthday's also coming up, which was another reason I wanted to get rid of that and put it up, because we're having her birthday party at our house, and we only invited close family and a couple of friends. So we invited our parents and all our siblings, and I think like 2 friends and a couple of cousins who are always kind of around doing family stuff. So when we were expecting only like half of them to actually show up or anything, so we were thinking maybe 15-ish, but then everybody pretty much responded that they were coming, and so now we're gonna have like 20 something, and so we're trying to make sure we have enough room, because there's gonna be let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids there. Uh, I think 7 and a teenage, well, not teenager, but I think she might be a teenager. But yeah, so that's a lot of kids running around. And we don't have a tiny house, but it sure ain't huge. Like, we're going to struggle to fit that many people in comfortably. And then, of course, then there will be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I want to say 15 adults. I really can't remember the exact numbers, but it's going to be quite a few people. But luckily, we have a pretty good sized couch that we can squeeze on, and a few extra chairs. And we're not doing a meal, we're just doing cake and snacks so everyone can just hold their food. But yeah, we're because yeah, that's oh no, I forgot 2 adults, so that's even more. But yeah, it's all our siblings, their spouses and kids, uh, and then of course one of my sisters who lives out of town can't make it, and then my wife's brother and his family aren't coming. But then so there's only 4 siblings, their spouses and kids, and then uh, have some family friends who are not legally so, but are our adopted siblings and their kids. So there will be a whole lot of people, but should be fun. And that's all the time I have for today. So we will continue this next time. Hello and welcome to part 2 of this week's podcast. It is actually what would normally be part 3 because it is Wednesday currently. But it's been a bit of a long week already. And yesterday I was very stressed and frustrated. And so I was not in the best mood to be doing the podcast. And I really just needed to relax and unwind for a little bit. So I went ahead and just didn't record. And I think that doing this every day of the week as opposed to or doing it like once a day as opposed to 4 times a day has helped me have that time when I need it. But I was thinking maybe I might start, moving it to when I'm driving around lunchtime, maybe, because I tend to be in a little better spirits for that. End of the day, I'm usually just a bit more tired and kind of want to just get home, but at the same time, I always forget to grab the mic on my way to lunch. And after listening back to some of the episodes before I got the new microphone, I am definitely not going to record with the same old headphones that I used to record with, because those were just real bad sound quality. And I know that this microphone can sound a little weird in the car, just because it's kind of doing a bit of noise cancellation on a lot of different noises at once, between the sound of the road, the engine, traffic, and everything else, trying to pick out my voice from the mess. I know it because I've listened back, and I know it's not perfect, but it is a far sight better than it used to be, for sure. Which, it is very interesting, just all the technology that goes into it, because like this microphone does a lot of things. I mean, for one thing, it's Bluetooth, which, like, is kind of a crazy technology when you think about it. I know I did a whole kind of rant on this a couple weeks ago on an episode. I was just talking about all the different processes that have to take place in order to really get the information going. But having a Bluetooth microphone is honestly crazy levels of technology. And I think we've, I don't know, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know I really often just forget how advanced the technology we use every day is. Because it's not really that simple to just be able to hit a button on your phone and be recording from something that is not even attached and have it actively filtering out background noise. Is really just so much that is far beyond what I think most of us consider it to be when it's just plug and play. It doesn't feel that complicated, but there's been hundreds of thousands or even millions of hours of work to get to this point, even from just, technology being back at electricity. Really, like, it's just so much more time and effort than you realize when you think of it all put together. Like, even going back toward the spark gap radio, because that was, if you don't know what that is, it was the first kind of way that radio waves were uh, generated and transmitted, was a gap in a circuit that created a large enough spark that it created a, a, a radio wave when it sparked the gap. And like, that is some old radio technology, but honestly, it's impressive that somebody ever found that out and figured out how to use that to transmit sound further than sound should be able to travel. But it's very, I just really get fascinated by that kind of technology stuff, because we've definitely moved on to very different forms of radio communication since then. But there was a point when it was literally a spark being created by a gap in between two parts of a circuit. And that was how we figured out how to make radio waves. It's interesting enough that Oh, I just like learning about it. But I don't really remember where I started with this. Kind of lost the thread there a little bit. But yeah. Oh, I, I did. I don't know how much I mentioned on Monday, but I did do some work on my uh, miniatures, and I actually over the weekend. I don't think I mentioned this. I picked up an old display cabinet from an estate sale here in town, and I was uh, able to kind of get it cleaned up and use it to display a lot of my miniatures. And well, not just a lot, all of my Legion miniatures fit inside of it, which some of the shelves are pretty small, so I don't know if I can fit them all the time, but I was able to fit them all in there for now. I'm working on the one of the larger figures, and then so that one I'll have to see. I think I'll have room for it. It's the LAATLE, and then I still have quite a few unpainted miniatures that I really need to start getting to and painting all of them. I want to do more painting. It's just not been the most convenient recently because we've just had a lot of things going on. And then, of course, just I have other interests too. I enjoy more than just painting, and so it ends up just that I don't have the time because the way I like to paint, I like to put a lot of time and effort into it. Like I spent a few hours this past weekend painting up the model I'm currently working on. Like it is a single model, and I'm most of the time I spent was spent on parts on the inside of the model, which I'm gonna have open, but so you'll be able to see them, but only if you look really up close on the model and from a weird angle, like looking down on it from the position you'd be in if you were playing, you will not see the details that I spent literal hours on. But I I enjoy putting that much effort into the models that I paint. And so I have like I used like 8 different colors that I do not think you're going to be able to see 99% of the time that the model is being used. But that's the detail I like to put into them. And I've been putting that detail into every model I do pretty much. And so it takes a long time, but I have a lot of fun with it. And I'd rather enjoy it and put in the time and effort needed to do it the best that I can, even if it doesn't really make a difference that much in how it looks on the table. That's just the way I like doing the painting. So that's the way I'm going to keep doing it. But that's all the time we have for this segment. So I will bring it up again tomorrow. Oh, hello, and welcome to today's portion of the week's podcast. Oy. I accidentally, making sure I didn't mess up anything because I accidentally hit the button a little early. Did not mean to start recording quite yet, but oh well. So, I guess this is only part 3 since I skipped a day this week, but boy, it was been a busy day. I don't really know the busier parts of it for my family were my mom came into town to watch my daughter because my wife had an appointment to get a chromosome test done so that we can find out the gender of the baby that's coming along here pretty quick. So that'll be nice and fun. And we'll know, and so we can start kind of getting better prepared and not, because like right now, can't really buy much to prepare. Kind of have like there's a few things you can get that are usually gender neutral, and like for our baby showers, we've already started a list of a lot of things that are kind of necessary regardless. But it is interesting to kind of see which things are and aren't. Because I know that a lot of people these days are trying to be like, oh, something can't make a kid a gender. Regardless of any of that, it's still just kind of ridiculous to think, oh, that I think that's one of those things where people kind of get in their head that things are a certain way and then really try hard to enforce that in their everyday life when it's not really that much. Because like the whole debate on gender and all that it just gets so ridiculous every time anybody starts up about it that I don't like getting into it. But it is very ridiculous in my opinion to ban your daughter from wearing pink because you're afraid of influencing her views on gender, or banning your son from like doing this, or like forcing your 1-year-old son to wear a tutu because, oh, I don't know what gender he's going to be. It's just like, regardless of what you think about where that ends up as an adult, as a kid, you should just like give them what they enjoy. And if you don't want to force some kind of gender thing on your kid, at least go gender neutral. Don't just swing wildly from one direction to the other depending on the day. Oh, but anyway, I don't want to go on about that. But it is exciting because we're going to get to find out. But we have some family friends who are actually waiting to find out until the baby's born. And so they have a lot of like very neutral colors and all that picked out for all of their stuff, and got a bunch of just kind of like woodland creature onesies and stuff like that. But you know, some people don't like knowing ahead of time, and I don't know, because they argue like that it ruins the surprise or something, or they want to be surprised. And I'm like, well, it's a surprise whether you learn ahead of time or not. It's just when that surprise happens and how much that surprise makes you need to buy new clothes. Because, like, especially for us, we already have a bunch of baby girl clothes. And so if we find out we're having another girl, we will not need to buy much. But if we find out we're having a boy, then we are going to need a lot of new onesies because there are quite a few that can be reused, but there's quite a few that have Daddy's little princess on them. So it'll be a bit of a toss-up which ones end up getting used. Well, literally a toss-up, because toss-up is a coin toss, which is 50-50, provided the coin is evenly balanced. Which, actually, an interesting thing is, like, the US quarter has slightly more material on one side. I don't remember which side it is, but there is more material on one side of the quarter, which ends up making it actually not quite an even 50-50 chance. Like, it's not enough to really make a real difference if you're just trying to, like, do a coin toss, but over, like, the course of a few hundred tosses, it can actually be enough to change the average outcome a little towards one. But I really don't remember what it is. Because I think I remember that the heads is more material, so that makes tails more likely. But I don't know for sure. Because I can't quite remember. But yeah, I know there is a difference, but it's not that big of one. And I don't know what's going on up here, but I'm on a road with a speed limit of 65, and there's a bunch of people in a single file line going 45. So it's really clogging up traffic back here. But anyway, yeah, I was talking with my wife last night. We were just kind of talking about how different people do different things, and I noticed that I tend to have some more, like, I don't know, I don't remember if I've talked about it before or not, but several members of my family, including my wife, think that my sisters and I all have autism to some degree. And while I know it's true because a doctor said it for one of my sisters, and then my wife's family, her sister has two sons who are diagnosed with autism as well. And so her sister, who has the two sons diagnosed with it, has said my wife exhibits a lot of the same traits, and she remembers from when my wife was little that she acted a lot like those boys. And so like, the people who know much about it in my family think that my wife is, and that I am as well. And we were just kind of talking about that, which, like, I know that it's very popular to self-diagnose these days, and I really don't like that. So I'm not going around saying, "Oh, I got autism," because I really do not appreciate all the self-diagnosing of different things that goes on. But I do think that it's interesting to see the different kind of correlations there, and that there are some people who have it more pronounced than others. And just like there are a lot of things, but since my wife and I have started talking about it more, and I've kind of started letting myself do more things that some people consider weird in some social situations, but just like I like bouncing my leg a lot, uh, which is like a form of stimming, according to my wife. She thinks that's what it is, but yeah, I like bouncing my leg a lot just during the day, and I've had a lot of people get really annoyed with it in the past, so I kind of stopped letting myself do it, even though I still like doing it. But I started letting myself do that again, and just kind of letting myself bounce around a little more, be a little more energetic when I talk about topics I enjoy versus keeping a very calm demeanor regardless of the topic. Because, yeah, when I talk about stuff I enjoy talking about, really, I just really get into it and get real energetic and start kind of being a bit bouncy and jumping around. Uh, and kind of just jumping from topic to topic as well is something that I really tried to suppress, but I think isn't really that bad of a thing for the most part, as long as I'm able to stay relatively on subject when there's something that needs done or being is important that's being talked about. But when we're just, having normal conversation or just enjoying talking about nothing in particular, then it's a lot more the way my brain works to just kind of bounce around from subject to subject with vague tangents connecting them. But oftentimes I will start talking about something with somebody, and then in my head, I will make a connection to something else that is somewhat related, at least. And then I will do that again and again and again. But this is all while the other person is still talking a lot of times. And so what ends up happening is that I'll be having a conversation with somebody and just start saying something on a subject that to them is like completely out of left field, that doesn't even relate to the subject we're on. But in my brain, I've gone through like 6 different steps of where it relates to one thing to another, and that ends up confusing some people. But when my wife and I talk, it makes for interesting conversation because she gets it, and sometimes I have to stop and say, all right, wait a minute, let me explain, here's how I got here. But I still enjoy it and think it's pretty fun. But that's all the time we have for now, so I will continue this with the final portion of the episode tomorrow, and maybe tonight or tomorrow I will remember to process and upload last week's podcast, because I just now realized that I have not done that yet. But that's all for this day, so hello and welcome to part 4, the final part of this week's episode of the podcast. Boy, I am pooped. It has been quite the day. And I mentioned at the end of, I think I mentioned at least during yesterday's podcast, that the air conditioner went out in our office. Well, it was out all day today. So I managed to keep up on water mostly, but I am just heat exhausted out my rear. It is very overwhelming to be in a very warm office all day for me. And I know that there's people who work outside in this weather, and it's like, because it's 100 degrees ish, or feels like 100 outside right now. And it is just, yeah, it's hard being out in this at all. And I can't imagine doing construction work in it, oh, but it is very, just tiring. I get heat exhaustion real easy too, is a problem. And so I know that if I'm overheating, it gets bad. But it wasn't too terrible. So hopefully we'll have it fixed. The building manager said that it was fixed about an hour ago, but nobody felt the air get any cooler at all. So I really don't think it was fixed, but apparently they have a history of very poor maintenance on their AC units at the building we're in. And so every other tenant said that it's just a nightmare when the AC goes out because they never fix it. And so that's just rough. Luckily, one AC unit was still working. And so there was like 2 rooms of the office that were cooled. And we spent the last like 20 minutes of the day in there. Oh, for somebody's birthday. So that was good at least. Helps cool down a little bit. But yeah, I wouldn't. It's one of those things where I don't mind when the heater goes out so much because you can always kind of plug in small electric heaters and put on jackets and warm clothes and wrap yourself up in a blanket. Like, there are a ton of ways to keep warm or get warm, but when it's 100 degrees outside and the AC is off, you do not really have many options at all to cool off, because especially when you're working at a desk, like, you can't get wet in the water, you can't install your own AC, that wouldn't work. You can't, like, portable ACs are not a thing. You can try something like a humidifier to move air over some wet surface to kind of cool it down, but that's not going to work much. And so what ends up happening is you just end up getting stuck in the heat. And if I was at home, like, I could buy or I have actually a window unit that I can put in, which might not work great, but it'll keep some of the house nice and cool. But can't do that in an office, and you can't get changed into just a pair of shorts And even if you could, they're at home, not at the office, so you can't do that. And you can't really do much of anything to beat the heat because I'm not at an office where they require suits. It's just kind of casual. I don't really think I, I haven't looked at any of the paperwork from when I originally got hired in a while, but they don't even require a dress code really. I like dressing in jeans and a collared shirt just because that's kind of my style more. Even on the weekends, I just wear jeans and a t-shirt, but most people wear sweat pants or shorts or something in a t-shirt. I prefer jeans, but it gets a little warm sometimes. Well, really, it only gets warm when the AC is broken because usually it's cool enough. But the yeah, and it's, it's just like I really don't have a way to get cooler, and I guess we could. The only thing I can think of is put a fan blowing over some water because that does tend to evaporate water, which cools the air slightly, but that doesn't do it very effectively. It's not the most efficient process. So, yeah, you end up just going back to not really being able to cool off, which it's actually really interesting that when I don't, I don't remember exactly the science behind it, but pretty much when something that's changes when something changes from one state of matter to another, it can either lower or increase the temperature of that thing depending on which direction and between what states it goes. But I'm pretty sure that when you evaporate water or boil water, and so when liquid water gets turned into water vapor, that that transition somehow uses up energy, and so it goes to a lower energy state, which cools the area around it and lowers the temperature of the change. And I think there, there's one. I don't remember what it is. There's another one that's kind of weird, but yeah, I guess there's probably some chemical reactions you could do that would service to lower the temperature. But yeah, you, it's just one of those things where, due to the laws of conservation of energy, pretty much in order to lower the temperature, you have to remove energy from the room. And in order to conserve energy, that energy has to be put somewhere. And so, yeah, you can't have a portable AC unit because you pretty much have to vent out the heat that is generated by removing heat from the air. In order to cool the air, you need to generate more heat. And so if you leave an AC unit running in the middle of a room, it'll actually heat up the room because there's no uh, the cooling process is only achieved by expelling hot air outside. And so if you just leave it running, really, if it were a perfect system, it would stay at a constant temperature. But because there is going to be some heat generated by the electrical components when they run, you end up actually gaining heat. And so using an air conditioner actually generates heat. It just pumps all of that heat to the outside. And so you end up with a cooler inside. But it's a very interesting kind of thermodynamic principles that I've learned about. But that's all the time we have for this week's episode. So thank y'all for listening, and catch y'all next time.